Welcome to Beyond Better, a podcast that explores a simple but profound idea. We all deserve to live lives we love, and that includes our work lives too. I'm Stacey Ennis, an author and longtime location-independent entrepreneur living in Portugal with my family of 4. Join me as I talk business, location independence, writing, travel, and so much more. All focused on building a life that is beyond better. Welcome. I'm really excited about this week's topic and especially this week's guest. I get a lot of questions about content marketing, and that I think that phrase in and of itself feels a little bit hard to unpack for a lot of people. And so this week's guest is going to help us understand both how to manage a big content ecosystem and also how to get started if you're just starting out with your content marketing as an author. I'm really excited to introduce you to this week's guest. Martin Cavannagh is the head of content at Reedsy, the world's leading marketplace for publishing talent, connecting writers with top editors, designers, marketers, and ghostwriters. He and his team create new guides, resources, webinars, and videos every week to help writers take the next step on their publishing journey. Welcome, Martin. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm very pleased to be here, Stacey. Thank you for having me.
Martin, we have known each other for a really long time. I think it's got to be in like the 7-ish year mark, 6 or 7 years at this point.
Sort of modern online working environment. We've known each other for that long. Although I think we've physically met in person, I think 5 months ago when you came to London.
Yeah, I know. What a lovely breakfast. It was nice after working with somebody online for so long. It's so nice to get to be in real life. So it's been neat from my end because I have gotten to know you over your long role at Reedsy, and I've been a fan of Reedsy since it started. I think it's such a great resource for authors. It's a marketplace, and what I like about it is it's curated and vetted. I think that's so important in our modern publishing landscape. So I'd love to know a little bit about your journey. I mean, I know about it, but I would love for our listeners and viewers to learn how you got into the role that you're in today at Reedsy, a little bit of your backstory, and then what you do for the company.
Okay. So a bit about me. I'm head of content here at Reedsy, which is a job title that I half gave myself because we all sort of fall under the bracket of content marketers. I've been here for about 7 years, and like all marketers, I have failed at the creative industries, and I love paying rent. So I first moved to London about 14 years ago to work in the film industry. I went to film school after I graduated, worked in film production, did corporate videos. And the more that I tried to sort of pivot into working in a film crew, the more I found myself working in the service industry. So as opposed to working at a bar, I ended up working at a video on demand company, doing their blog, interviewing celebrities, writing reviews. And that sort of turned into the blog guy. And that was about 10 years ago, where every company needed to have a blog, and you had to do a little bit something extra to distinguish yourself as a content marketer, which is what I started focusing on. So from that video on demand company, I went to a online estate agent doing some filthy work before finally finding Reedsy, which is a publishing marketplace. We connect, as you said, authors with publishing professionals such as yourself. It's been a great place to work because as a marketer, it always helps to be selling something you actually like and that the customers actually like, and you don't feel like you're tricking them into getting something they don't need. So I guess that's sort of my long sort of strange journey, I suppose.
The one thing that's really built my trust with Reedsy over the years, along with knowing you and trusting you, is that I've referred some really great professionals to the platform who have been rejected. And eventually, they got feedback and they worked on their applications and profiles, and eventually these professionals were brought on. But that actually gave me a lot of trust that people are actually being vetted. I know these are good professionals and I know they're worthy of being on the marketplace. Talk a little bit about how you are different than, let's say, like a Craigslist or, something where people can just post anything and anybody can reply to them. Talk a little bit about how the marketplace works and the type of professionals that you have on it.
Yeah, so the emphasis is on, I guess, the professionals want good leads. They want good clients and good projects to work on and to work for, and authors want the sort of guarantee that they'll be working with good editors and designers. And from our perspective, yeah, the easiest thing to do is actually to make sure that everyone is who they say they are and has the skills, which means that we don't have to mediate as much as we need to if we just let anybody on. So the more ruthlessly we are, the more effort we're saving for ourselves down the line. Because if everybody's happy with the collaborations, both the freelancers that we have and the authors, that's less work for us. And so I think it has sort of helped us out just to be a little bit more ruthless. I say your friends may have had the experience, but unless they can sort of prove it and we can see on paper and find a way to vet to make sure that they are who they say they are, then it's just easier for us to say, maybe come back in a few years when you've proven yourself a little bit more. But as a result, we have customers are broadly happy with all the collaborations they're with. The editors, a lot of the authors will have them write their first book and then come back to those editors for their second, third, fourth book. Same thing with cover designers. So it's always good to see us as an introduction service that turns into a place where you can find your career-long collaborator, as you would.
Yeah, it's so valuable. I think that layer of vetting on behalf of the author is huge. And that's why when I get people that reach out to me to work with me and it's not a good fit, I don't have maybe a direct referral to them. Reedsy is a place that I send them because I know that they're going to have better, I would say, a more trustworthy experience there than if they try to just Google and meet with people. So your role at Reedsy is head of content. And because I've been following your work for a long time and known you for a long time, I have been kind of blown away by the volume of content that you put out. So I know that you're constantly producing lists, your guides, resources, webinars. You just did, as of this recording, a webinar on AI last week. And there's always just these new and really valuable resources. They're not just like fluff garbage. They're actually really, really helpful resources. So I'd love to hear a little bit from you as the person that's managing all of that. How do you ideate, create, and then distribute that to the people that actually need it? Talk to me a little bit behind the scenes of how that big machine functions.
Sure. I guess the thing that sort of, like when I first came to Reedsy, the places where I'd done content marketing before, it was sort of seen as, oh, we need social media and we need a blog. What do we put on that? Who cares? Just put out a post every week. Doesn't really matter. Whereas over here, we see it as a way in order to bring new customers in and to get them onto our marketplace, to try it out, to try some of our features. So everything for us comes to will we be able to get people to look at this? And that always starts with organic traffic. For us, it's all about search traffic. Most of the users who come onto the blog, who come onto our free courses, all come through Google searches. And so we have tools like Ahrefs, SEMrush that let you figure out how many people in a certain territory search for certain terms any given month. And so we're able to go through there and do research and find out exactly what we should actually be spending time on. So, for example, some of our early posts include if we want to capture writers, of course, we'd do posts on how to write a novel, how to self-publish a book. But then we see that a lot of writers, a lot of people will be searching for point of view omniscient versus third person omniscient versus limited. That's like a big topic. And we know that, okay, that's a writer's topic. You may be in high school, but if you're writing a novel, this is the kind of topic you'll be creating. So we'll put time and effort into creating what we think is the most useful piece of content for someone searching for that topic. I think there could be a thing of sometimes you just create content, you'll slap it up online, and really doesn't matter. If you're doing limited versus omniscient, you might think, okay, I'll just sort of define what the two are, leave it there, and then put it out on the internet. Whereas our emphasis is on, okay, if I'm an author, maybe a self-published author, someone who hasn't done an MFA, maybe I need to describe what it is, talk about the use cases. If you're a writer looking to do this sort of book, if your characters are of this type or that type, maybe you want to use this POV. So we have to think of everything from our user's perspective. What would be the most useful thing for them? So to go back to this keyword research, we would have this massive list of keywords that we prioritize based on how much traffic we think they'd get for us any given month, how difficult it would be to rank for those. Because, we could put out a post, but organic wise, if you can't get a post onto the first page of Google for a search term, and more realistically in the top 3 or 4 spots, then it might as well not exist. If you search for any topic, the first thing that pops up on the page on Google will get most of the traffic. The second one will get some more. And by the time you actually have to scroll down to the bottom of that search page, nobody's clicking your stuff anymore. So it's a matter of what can you do good content on that's relevant to your user that you can get to rank well. And so we have a list of things that we've just been tackling for the 7 years that I've been here. Everything needs to be updated, of course, but it's a matter of going through all of those. And as you say, we do have a lot of volume, which does require actual team members. So I've got, a team of sometimes 5 or 6 writers who work alongside me to create this stuff. And just to make sure we've got a constant flow of useful information.
I love that emphasis on research. And I mean, for me, it jives with how I teach book writing. A lot of people want to just jump right into writing their book, but there's a lot of planning and research and just thoughtfulness about your reader in nonfiction that a lot of people skip. And to your point, when you spend that time on research and strategy and making sure that you're actually reaching the people you want to reach, you're going to have results down the road. Now you have a team, right? So this is a little different than somebody who is, maybe just starting out with content, if they're a one-woman, one-man show, or maybe there's somebody who has an admin or maybe a person on their team that can support with content development. Maybe they've been doing it for a little while. Can you share a little bit of your expertise and wisdom for those who are in a non-team situation? They're growing either from scratch or maybe they're scaling from an existing stable platform.
Sure. For the sake of argument, let's say that you have your author website and you're creating content because you want to bring people to your website because you're selling a certain type of book. When I first started Reedsy, the marketing team was just me, and I'd spend a week writing a blog post, say, and then maybe the next 3 weeks just trying to get it out there. Because, one of the toughest things is that in order to rank well on Google, you need to sort of meet some criteria. Your website needs to be seen as an authority on the topic. If you're just starting off as an author, you've created a website on Wix, you have no authority whatsoever. Even if you're sort of known within your area, nobody's linking to your site. And so Google looks at it and goes, why should we care about this website? So one of the things you have to do is, before it was about distribution of your content. These days, I think the value is in getting people to link to your content. And that used to be a case of you'd go out to blogs and say, hey, I've written this new post that you might find interesting. I've written, say, for example, one of your clients has written a book on, using yoga practices within the business context or whatever. You might reach out to
Love it.
Work at home blogs, you may business influencers, yoga influencers, and say, hey, I've got this unique approach. Maybe you'd be interested in linking back to my site. And that is most of the time not going to work because, you probably get however many emails a day asking you to link back to random people.
So many, Martin. I don't even read them anymore. Yeah.
These days, people even reach out to us and, will pay us to link back to them because it is of monetary value. And so the difficulty is, I need people to link through to us. How do we do it? And so, if you are starting off, what you can do as a person who is an authority on yoga within the business context, you can offer to write guest content because there'll be all these people out there with their own websites who don't want to just link to your content. But if you have a unique blog that you can write for them specifically for their audience, they'll be receptive to that. So a lot of it will be, a lot of that promotional bit will be getting onto those other blogs, writing content just for them, and then sneaking a backlink to your article on that. It's slow work. It requires a lot of hard work. But that's sort of what's required to do this sort of marketing. It's coming up with a plan and actually just grinding away at it. You could probably get a VA, a virtual assistant, to help you write some of this. You can farm some of that out and maybe edit this content. But a lot of the effort will come in reaching out to all these suitable outlets that may want to link back to you, pitching them content, writing content, and actually delivering good stuff to them. And so I think what you would want to do if you want to start off is pick that one topic that you think is super relevant to what you do. That one keyword that if you went, man, if I rank number one for this particular keyword that people searched, then that could bring me 50 people a month who'd be super relevant to me. Find out what that is. See that it isn't super competitive. If you've got big name sites that sort of dominate those search pages, you may want to start there. Write that one piece of great content that's 10 times better than what they have. Go out, do guest posting, get people to link back to it so Google can see that this page is authoritative. And yeah, that's sort of the first bit. Get those people onto your site with your first piece of content.
I love how you emphasized, well, two things. One is it's like a long game, right? And it's work and it's consistent work. But then there's also this research and creative aspect to it of really, well, number one, you need clarity. You need to really understand what is that term or that thing that you really want to own. Do the research to see what the phrase is that people are looking for. And then a lot of it, I feel like a lot of it is kind of the hustle and grind of really getting out there, pitching and doing the work. I'd be curious to know if you agree with this, Martin. My philosophy, having done so much different types of marketing, big fails, wins, everywhere in between in my own business, is I think there's about at least a 12-month time frame for you to see a return on some of, like a serious return on marketing efforts. Is that this is my working philosophy.
Yeah.
How does that jive for you?
If you're starting from zero, yeah, at least like at the beginning, setting up that content, getting the ball rolling just takes that long. Once you become a thing, once people know you, like, that time really starts to shrink. Now that I am me, Reedsy, the living personification of the company for which I work, are an authority on publishing. I can put out a post this week. In 2 weeks, I can get it to rank with very little effort, and then I can see tangible marketplace results for that within another 2 weeks after that. But yeah, that 1 year period was probably closer to the mark when we first started, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think it's good to have that idea going into it because a lot of people think that they should be able to launch their website and like send an email and put on a LinkedIn post and suddenly they're going to have, people buying their book or traffic to their business or whatever it is. But just generally, that's not a realistic time frame for most people.
Yeah, especially when you are dealing with topics that are a little bit further away from the bottom of your conversion funnel, right? We know that at Reedsy, our business is selling people on editors and book cover designers, but we have a lot of content that's about how to write a book. If you're searching for how to write a book, you probably don't need an editor for the next 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. And so for that one, it certainly is the long game of acquiring those leads, getting onto your list and then sort of nurturing them over the next 2 years. So for that one, it certainly is the long game of acquiring leads that may not mature for, months, if not years.
Yeah, that's so true. I do find that a lot of people that reach out to me for book coaching or to work with my team for ghostwriting or join one of my programs, many of them have been following me for years before they actually reach out. Sometimes it's months, but sometimes it is like I had somebody reach out not too long ago that has been following me for 6 years. And sometimes it just takes that long with certain industries to get to a point where you actually are ready and need that and are, ready to go. So I love that point. I appreciate that nuance to it too, Martin. So I've been thinking as we've been going along, and I bet some of our listeners and our viewers are curious about this. Can you like peel back the curtain and give us a day in the life of a head of content for a team like this? Like, what kind of stuff are you doing on a day-to-day basis? What kind of challenges are you facing? Like, what does your average day and week look like?
Okay, well, let's start at because I work from home. My day starts at 9, so I peel myself out of bed at 8:55 and quickly turn on the kettle. But I guess the first thing I do, let's say I'm the person who sends the newsletter out to our mailing list. It's a fairly large mailing list. Let's say I check my emails to see what the responses are. Some of them are out of office replies. Some of them are kids telling me to go F myself. A lot of them will be from potential customers. And when you have a large enough mailing list, there are some people on there who treat it as though you're reaching them out to them specifically. So it's really sweet to have the people going, "Oh, thanks for telling me this, Martin. That's really helpful." And I go back and say, "You're very welcome." So let's say I've cleared my emails within 20 or so minutes. I'd be then looking at Slack to see if I've got any Slacks from my team who may have had first drafts of any posts of which I can give feedback on. We use Google Docs, so we're able to use track changes and leave comments. And if they're based in another time zone, that's fine because they can sort of pick that up later. After that, I may be looking to prepare for a webinar that I'm running. So it's a matter of checking that the guest is going to be their runtime. I've got my software all set up. Then I may also then be looking to book in someone else to provide a new free course for us. So that's sending some more emails. And then if I'm lucky, I could treat myself to writing a bit of a post in the afternoon. Turn up to meetings with the different stakeholders in the company, between a head of marketing and CEO, to sort of catch them up on what's happening on the marketing side. We'd maybe then hop onto a call once a week with the entire marketing team to look at some of our key posts to see what is underperforming. Posts that used to be number one for a certain search term haven't done so well, so we may have a meeting to discuss how we can augment or tweak or update a post in order to make it better. And if it's good, if it's a good day, we may have our team book club at 5:30, at which point I'll be cramming to finish a book in about half an hour to be able to contribute. And then, maybe take place in a webinar in the evening. So it's a lot of things. Those things, of course, don't all happen on the same day, but it sort of shows the breadth of it. A lot of it is sort of responding to questions from a team and trying to be as unhelicopterish as possible while also making sure that things stay on track. That's a bit of a flavor of what my day might be like.
Oh, that's super interesting. And I love that you have a book club. I mean, it's perfect. It just fits perfectly with everything.
It is, it's pretty ideal. A lot of the folks in our team come because they, of course, are interested in books and reading, and that's awfully nice. Sometimes you work at a startup where not too many people are actually too keen on whatever product it is you're selling, but there are a lot of very bookish folks, especially on the marketing team here.
Yeah, I mean, most people that get into the publishing world do it because they want to be writers or they love books or they have some affinity for the creation of and distribution of the written word. So that's so fun. I love that. I'd love to hear a little bit. I know you work in the content area, but having worked at Reedsy and having this experience across publishing options for authors, one of the biggest questions that I get both from people that reach out to me, to my newsletter, for example, or for the podcast, or even clients and students, even before they've started writing the book, they're already thinking about their publishing pathway. And it becomes a pretty big and important question for authors that are entering into this world. And they hold a lot of, I think, they believe some myths that aren't necessarily true. They hold maybe some beliefs that should be questioned and challenged. And then sometimes they're totally right on their perceptions. So I'd love to hear a little bit from you on your reflections about the publishing industry and the pathways that you've seen authors that come through Reedsy or wherever else on your opinions and your thoughts for authors who are getting started and trying to figure out the right path for them, either self-publishing, hybrid publishing, traditional publishing, or maybe like assisted self-publishing, something in those realms that they're looking at.
Yeah. Basically, like these days, if you can write a book, you can publish it. Yes. Ideally, now with the caveat, this book should be good, ideally. Like, before you consider anything else, you have to realize that your book has to be well written if it is to thrive in any sort of environment. If you traditionally publish a book, it better be good, because if nobody likes it and talks about it, you're not going anywhere, you're not going to make back your advance, and that's the end of your traditional publishing career. If you self-publish, you can put it out there, but if it's not good enough that people will recommend it to each other, you're not going to be selling more copies once you stop, actively advertising it, and that's sort of the end of that. So I think there is, a way for you to get anything published. I think the thing is that there are still a lot of people who enter it and want to be the person who writes the great American novel on the first try, who will sit down, write the book, and then want to be immediately rewarded for it. They want to market it because I'm an author, damn it. I'm not a marketer. And so they want the people to come to them, drop some cash on their table, and then that's it. Reward them for their genius. The thing about these days is that no matter whether you're traditionally publishing or self-publishing, you're going to have to take a lot of responsibility for marketing your book in some way or fashion. In traditional publishing, when they talk about marketing budgets, the marketing budgets are, if it's advertising, is predominantly spent on names that you already know, the sort of top names in the publishers have on their list. And the rest of the marketing budget, as it were, is trying to get your book placed in a shop. So then, that's the best you can sort of hope for. Doesn't always work. Sometimes, like if you're a new author, they'll go, okay, we'll give you this new Dan Brown book if you promise to put Stacey's book somewhere on the shelf here. And that's the extent of how well it's going to be marketed. If you're really lucky to try to publish it, it will be on the shelves of stores. And that's about it. That's about it. So don't go into publishing if you're not willing to put in some personal graft. There are people who are household name authors who will have their own website, have their own mailing list, will let people know when they've got a new book coming out, will do everything that a self-publishing author will do in order to promote their new book, because they realize it's up to them to get the wheels turning, to sell their book, because your publisher certainly won't do it. So if you are going with this mindset that you are going to have to market your book to some capacity, then the world opens up to you, because now you have the option of self-publishing or going for the trad publishing model. The trad publishing model, you're looking at about 5 to 10% of sales, cover sales for the book. I believe that a retailer, the publisher could determine how much they sell your book for, whereas in self-publishing, you choose that. Let's say you go through Amazon. Self-published authors, most of them are selling ebooks. That's your bread and butter there, for which you are getting 70% of the cover price. So you could be talking about anything up to maybe like $3 or $4 maybe for each ebook you sell. And that's great, because it means you only have to sell a fraction of the number of books that you would otherwise have to sell at a trad publisher, and you're already making more money. So in order for that to work, you need to know that your book has an existing audience. That's why you'll see a lot of sort of copycat authors who thrive in the self-publishing world, because they'll see what is selling really big right now, and we can sort of adhere to tropes and sort of patterns and really deliver to those audiences. But, unless if you don't want to game the system, if you just want to write the books you want to write, just make sure that there is an existing audience, that there are books like yours, so that if your book is a certain way, you can sort of tweak it a little bit just to sort of fit more into the mold of what someone already wants, which makes it infinitely easier to market. Because although everyone wants to have written a unique story and a unique snowflake piece of work, it's much easier to sell if you go like, it's like this book, but like that. It's like The Horse Whisperer, but in a rhino sanctuary. Then it appeals to people who love The Horse Whisperer and those sort of books, and people who may like, The Savannah. So it's understanding the audience you have, and then as soon as you know that audience exists, you'll find a way to advertise to them. You know how to create an advert set to to attract them. You know how to create content that can appeal to them. You'll know where they hang out on social media because you know who those people are. Everything gets so much easier. And then you sort of mentioned that third way of the hybrid publisher. I would say avoid those people altogether. Hybrid publishers and assisted self-publishers are just what vanity presses are calling themselves these days. Broadly speaking, I don't want to get sued or anything. But those are the sort of people who will come to you and say, hey, you're a great author, fantastic. I'd like to partner up with you. You contribute half, I'll contribute half. And in the end, they'll just do what someone would do if you're self-publishing. They're not going to market your book. They're not really going to promote it in any way. So if you're going to self-publish, may as well go whole hog, do it yourself, because otherwise you're going to have to do it yourself anyway in the end.
Yeah, so much gold there, Martin. But I would love to discuss the hybrid a little bit more, because I think there's a caveat there. And I see this particularly with some of my clients who are busy executives, let's say, or they're running companies. And for them, they're not looking to recoup book sales, but they want to basically outsource the production of their book. So for them, a lot of times I see that can be a super valuable route if you have I think it depends on what your vision and aspirations and budget are. But on the other side, absolutely, if you're going for book sales and you're wanting, that is your ROI ticket and you're looking for that to recoup your investment, yes, I agree. I do think there is a lot of value, and I'd be curious to get your opinion on this, in getting a coach or an advisor. I don't offer that myself, but I had this experience. So I'll give this to you. My first book, published 10 years ago, was traditionally published by a small press. So I had a small book deal, normal, traditional thing. They went under. And then I got the rights back to publish my book. So I self-published it. And even though I had somebody on my team doing a lot of it, and I know it's easier now and I think the year we did that was probably 2017 or something like that. It was the worst. And after that, I said, I will never do this again. And I think having somebody come in that can kind of guide you and support you along the way, bring in the people, bring in give you their expert guidance. I think there's a lot of value there. So I want to tease that out a little bit for the nuance that exists.
I think, there are those folks. If as you say, selling copies and getting enough fans to put out your next book, and your next book isn't your priority, if it is a title that is supporting another business, then of course your time is absolutely valuable. You don't need to spend, the Gladwellian number of hours to learn how to publish a book if you're only planning to do that one. So getting someone on board to help you makes sense. The one question I would always suggest asking is, if you're getting a company or an advisor or a manager, always ask who is doing the work, who is editing, who is proofreading, who is designing. Because the number one place that the places that are scams or scam adjacent would do is that they hire kids fresh out of college on machines to do it for you. And when you ask them who did this, don't worry, it's our fantastic, wonderful in-house ghostwriters. Oh, they're the best. They're the absolute. When Donald Trump talks about the best people, he talks about these guys, these nameless, faceless thems. With not to sort of bring it back to Reedsy, but the whole point of us is that you know what they've done before, you know who they are. There's someone with experience doing it. So if you're going with a company that is doing this for you, just ask who is editing this. What is their background? What am I paying for?
Yes, 100%. They were recording this on the back of a major hybrid publisher going under because they were completely scamming people essentially and running things in a mismanaged way. I'm just using my most objective language here, but I think as somebody who's been in this industry for 14 years now, I have absolutely seen people get burned, books get low quality work done. And again, that's why I like a platform like yours, because I think, you can't protect against everything, but at least having a layer that, gives some kind of security and trust that, the person that you're working with knows what they're doing and is a demonstrated professional. There's so much value there. And you're right. If you hire somebody, a hybrid publisher, a self-publishing project manager, assisted self-publishing, you don't want to go and really manage that project. You have a business to run. You have other goals to pay attention to. You want to fully outsource. So that's why when I'm working with somebody or giving them advice on, who to hire and who to work with, I recommend that they order a physical book from that either the publisher or the project manager has worked on. I'd pick random ones that have been produced in the past 1 or 2 years, reach out to a couple of authors who they've worked with, but again, if you can, do it randomly, and just do some due diligence, because I think a lot of people feel, and Martin, maybe you can relate to this because you weren't in publishing before you came into publishing. It feels very overwhelming and a little bit like, I don't really know what I'm doing, and they're the professionals, so surely they know what they're doing. So I think there's some hesitation to investigate and ask questions and really do due diligence. And I find that a lot of people spend, more time maybe picking out an outfit for a nice event than they do vetting some of the professionals that will determine the future of their book.
Yeah, one of the things that I sort of learned the further into my 30s I get, is that they don't do their job as well as they say they do their jobs, or they just don't know what they're doing, and are just bluffing the entire time. So yeah, some people may be trying to fake it until they make it. For that one, you just gotta sniff it out, and yeah, just due diligence, as you say, or just do some super secret squirrel stuff. Make sure that they can actually deliver on what they're saying. We've worked with vendors before who are very, very official, and the longer we worked with them, the more we realized that so many things were just falling between the cracks. They deliver a product to us and we go, okay, this looks great, and then we read through it, it's like, oh, this bit's repeated here, and oh, this bit's missing. It's like, oh, did you not actually do the work of checking through it? So you can't rely on other people to sort of do their job 100% well. If it matters to you, if the job's worth doing, it's worth doing yourself, I suppose.
Yeah, I think there is that kind of self-agency to it that is very important. And, there's the saying in the business world, it's like, what do they say? What gets measured gets managed, or manage what you essentially you need to manage things to get what you expect out of it.
Right, yeah.
And you can't simply just outsource and just assume and trust that everybody on the other side is going to do what they say, unless you're working with me. Let me just say that. Okay.
Yeah. Of course. But you and me are the only exceptions to this rule.
Yes, of course. Martin, I had so much fun talking with you, and this has been so valuable. Both, I love getting the behind the scenes on your work at Reedsy and then how that translates to an individual. I love going back and forth on the publishing landscape, because this is where I think we all get to bring, all of us in publishing, we get to bring our unique perspectives and polish each other's perspectives. I learned a lot from you today. Really appreciate your time. Can you tell our listeners what you're most excited about right now and where they can learn more about you and about Reedsy? I will drop in my Reedsy affiliate link in the show notes as well as my Reedsy profile.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we've got a few new exciting things popping up in the Reedsyverse, one of which is we've just introduced book coaching as a service, so you can work with book coaches, I think. But more excitingly, by the time you read this, we will have launched our brand new 3-month online course in which our head of learning, Tom Bromley, who's a ghostwriter and a writer himself, we've created this high-quality video course. So it's a program that offers 90-something video lessons and a guided 3-month program that will help you write a novel from idea to the end of the first draft in that period. So if you're the sort of person who always wanted to write a novel but didn't know how to get over that hump, check that out. I think you'll enjoy it.
Ah, very cool, Martin. I'll have to check out do you have now a little checkbox on Reedsy for book coaching? I haven't seen that on there yet.
Oh yeah. I thought I emailed you about it, but it is on there. You can check book coaching
Cool.
as a service, and yeah, I've checked it, and I think we've had a bunch of people set up some book coaching collaborations already. So it's good to see.
Nice. Yeah, I'll be sure to check my box on there. I love that you guys are always bringing on more resources and more types of professionals, and it's just always a joy, Martin, to get to talk with you. And I really appreciate you joining me today.
Oh, thank you very much, Stacey.
And thank you, as always, to the people that make this podcast possible. Rita Dominguez for her fine producing, Catherine Fishman for project management support, and Kim Foster for helping make sure that everything is typo free and well written when it goes out into the world. These three make the show possible, and I am so grateful. And I'm grateful for you, as always, for tuning in and listening. If you enjoyed this show, number one, why don't you share it with an aspiring author friend? And number two, if you would please rate and review the podcast, it would truly mean everything. It makes a huge difference for me to be able to reach more listeners and share more publishing and writing goodness and the message of living a life that is beyond better. I will be back with you before you know it.